This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free, and it goes to Gibbs White.
First time we've seen them attack them, and there's Francis! Well, that's what I wanted to see Robinson do. Tyler one, he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic!
Here's Bob Williams. He's through here! And in the end, Forrest will say it doesn't matter how you play as long as you win it.
Yeah! Forest Premier League!
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Red Side of the Trent as we join you very shortly after Nottingham Forest 0-0 draw, so I think in the last season there, 0-0 draw away at Selhurst Park, which obviously brought no goals. But it was a clean sheet and it leaves Forest very safely in mid-table with 9 points after 8 games, which is a huge improvement on last season. I am joined by Reiss and our man on the ground was Adam Wicklow. Lee Clark unfortunately got stuck by logistical issues, so we'll have to figure out a way to make him come on whenever we can. Probably not going to, but we'll try regardless. But yes, anyway, Adam, we'll start with you, seeing as you were there. A few interesting changes to the team, most notably up front with Chris Woods coming in for the injured Taiwo Awoniyi, which obviously came out on the day of the game with news that he's going to be out for a month, allegedly anyway. That was obviously pretty bruising. Did you think, how much confidence do you sort of lose when you saw that Wood would be starting ahead of Taiwo? Not that it's a slight on Wood at all, but more the influence that Awoniyi has in the Forest.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one because they're both. You'd say they're both quite similar, but they're actually quite different in a way. Because Awoniyi's quite deceivingly quick, so that kind of helps. But no, you've got to kind of give Wood the chance. I think he's much better down the centre, which we've said on this pod in the past, and it kind of helps if you get balls into the box to him. But I think his job was always to hold the ball up and bring others into play, and kind of when he could get opportunities to get in there and make it difficult for Anderson and Gurhey, then he was going to. But it's just a shame that he's not got that turn of pace that Awoniyi's got. So it's a bit worrying that he's out for another month and it's his groin again, which he had last season. But hopefully it will be better managed, and like at least it's a month, so he might miss 2-3 games this season rather than 3 months like he did last season, and hopefully it doesn't affect us in the long run as it did last season as much.
No, that's true. Obviously, we've got international break to sort of swallow part of that as well, so that's nice. But yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, like we saw, obviously Woods didn't have a lot to go off really. Much like he does, he runs and toils a lot, but apart from that one Aurier cross, which he nearly got on the end of, there wasn't really a lot going for him, bless him. But the game race started off pretty well, actually. Forest looks relatively decent. You know, the midfield three, I think it was called, was it Domangare, I think someone are calling it now, to sort of fuse Dominguez, Sangare and Mangala together. That looks to be the first choice midfield now. And I think I'm very impressed with how quickly it sort of meshed, those three, because they all complement each other very well. And you know, it was quite nice to see Forest sort of control the ball a bit on the away grounds.
Yeah, I mean, I thought we was by far the better team in the first half. It's just, as we said previously, that final product just isn't quite there, is it, at the minute? And that's the reason why we didn't win the game yesterday, because I thought we were far better side in the first half and throughout, really. Palace obviously had their couple of moments, as I think every team does in this league, but yeah, it's that midfield's definitely developing really nicely. And you know, at the minute it's going to be hard for the likes of Ryan Yates and Danilo when he's back fit to break into that, because that three at the minute is looking like the three what's going to keep the shirts for quite a while.
Yeah, definitely. I saw Lee did get some stick for his tweet, when he said about how the three that we've got now are the three that should be there for the foreseeable. But it was interesting going back to the start of the game, Adam, these sort of changes. Obviously, we saw Morgan Gibbs White line up on the right wing, and I'm not entirely sure how I feel about that, but it very nearly paid dividends as he roamed inside with a peach of a ball from Morello and mere inches separating Gibbs White's heel and the back of the net. It was interesting to see Forest sort of go for that more direct approach, and it sort of seemed as if Murillo was a sort of perfect sort of prototype for that, if you like, sort of a perfect catalyst, even.
Yeah, it's like a missile, wasn't it? Like, I mean, we saw last week where he played a few raking passes, and then if you obviously look at his YouTube confirmation, that's in his arsenal, definitely. And I think that's more variation of play than anything else, because a lot of the time he would go left to Tofolo or he play through the third. So when you've got that extra kind of weapon to use, then why not? And I mean, it was a great run from Gibbs White, and I mean, just to get anything on it on the full volley was great technique. It was just unfortunate. I think it like kind of comes off his heel if you watch the replay, and it kind of doesn't get the direction that it needed to go in the back of the net. But what a goal that would have been. And then just touching on Gibbs White out wide, I don't mind it if you've got an on-bombing right back. I was getting a little frustrated that Aurier wouldn't run into that space, because you kind of take away a player for then Gibbs White to exploit the space inside, or even get time on the ball to actually do something with it from out wide. So, but it worked a little bit better when Montiel come on, because he's a lot more forward thinking in that instance. So it's kind of like we've said, it's teething problems. It's trying to get that balance in midfield, because like Reiss said, we dominated the ball a little bit more, but you still need Gibbs White in that pocket to kind of do something for you, don't you? It's kind of a nice problem to have, but also not. It kind of makes me think that we maybe need another winger in January to kind of supplement that almost as well. It's a strange one, but I didn't mind it. We still looked very dangerous majority of the game.
Yeah, I do think that's probably an issue we picked up, is that as good as our recruitment was in January, and we sort of thought we filled all the holes that we had, it does seem we're kind of a winger light. Because obviously if one of Alanga or Hudson-Odoi gets injured, it's sort of like, well, now what? Like, do we start Origi as a winger? Do we start Gibbs White as a winger? Like, it's, sort of square pegs round holes territory. It's sort of quite a formal manager. But, I mean, Reiss, I mean, the first half, I mean, in terms of chances for me, it wasn't necessarily the most exciting of games, if you like. And obviously Tofolo had a decent chance from a corner that from 30 yards out, which was well parried by Johnston. But I mean, the best chance of the game, bizarrely, or arguably anyway, was when Murillo tries to beat 6 players, including sending Will Hughes back down the A52 to Derby at one move, leaving Gurhey on his arse. And I mean, I've never seen in my life a centre back even attempt that, let alone do it. But had that gone in, obviously goal of the season would have been done, like settled. But in terms of goals that we've scored as a football club, where would that have ranked? Because that was pretty special.
I think it would have been up there, wouldn't it? Because you got to look at the position he plays on the pitch. I know he is Brazil, so they're more renowned from that South American country for their flair. But yeah, it was some run. I mean, a couple of goals that sprung to mind, both like Spurs goals from the past, like the Ricky Villa goal against City when he weaved in between a few. And I don't know if you guys can remember David Ginola against Barnsley years and years ago, where he weaved in and out a load of them. And yeah, that was, I mean, watching it in the pub, it was like, right, he's done one and he's done another. And you're like, God, how long can he kind of keep doing this? And when he'd gone by, I think it was Gurhey, wasn't it? And then he's like, that's where he's made the shooting opportunity. And he's literally then just levered it as hard as he can. And he's probably hit it too well, to be honest, because he's gone straight at Johnston, and he's made a save what I'd expect him to make, really. But then it actually comes back to him. And I think because of all what had happened, he'll probably be a little bit disappointed he didn't really take the second bite of the cherry and test Johnston again, because he kind of just scuffed it back to Johnston, didn't he, really, which was a bit of a shame. But that was some run. I mean, the balls you spoke about with Adam, I mean, that was just like when Michael Dawson broke into the Forest team back in, I think it was 2002 season, where he could just ping the ball from one side of the pitch to the other at ease. And so that was brilliant. And he looks, I mean, we're only 2 games in, so you've got to ease expectations, because he's a young lad, and I'm sure there will be times when his age might show a little bit. But yeah, they were full of praise for him, weren't they, on Sky Sports? And he looks another player we've got from South America who could be a real good value for us. And that's what we've said on this pod, haven't we, all along? We've got to be looking at players who for pretty nominal fees in this division. What was it, 13 million euros? So I know I'm talking 13 million, but it's still not a lot in the grand scheme of things. And then, down the line, we might treble his money on him, or even more. You never know. So, yeah, he looks a real talent, and it is to say how bulky he looks as well. To have them type of moves in him, it was something to behold, that run, and I'm gutted it didn't go in. And that's 2 wonder goals now. Sam Johnson's stopped us to go with that Guardiola one from a few years back.
Oh God, yeah, the one from his own half, wasn't it? Yeah. If you one of those nemesis players like Gherkin was, or was it Rudy Steads, where you they just play Forest and just put in a worldy display. But
Jordan Rhodes,
Jordan Rhodes, yeah. I think what's most impressive, and was it Dobby as well? Stephen Dobby used to cherish playing Forest. But I think what's most impressive is obviously you look at when we signed Danilo, and it took us a good 2 months to really fully integrate him. I know he obviously had bits in the team, and then he was out for a while. And then we had Leeds at home in February, I think it was, and Danilo wasn't great. I think he was hooked at half time, and then obviously came back in again towards late March and started going on the run that he did. But Mourinho straight away is basically gone, "This is my shirt now. See you later." And that's incredible, really. I think I saw that he started playing professional football in April, been in the youth academy before then. So it's quite remarkable rise, really. But you are right in what you say. He's only 21. There's going to be mistakes in him. He's only going to be young, so you have to be patient with him. But it's very exciting.
Yeah, you have to see by the players Brighton pick up from. They've not had much experience at all, and they don't mind sticking them in. And look how many of them's worked out for them. So a lot of players just need that chance to go and show what they can do. They just need that bit of luck. We've heard Joe Wall speak, didn't we? He literally broke into the Forest team because he basically asked Philip Montagnier, "Oh, give me a chance and I can, prove you wrong." And years later, he's the Forest captain and playing in the Premier League. So some players just need that chance. So for him to come in and look like he has after 2 games is really good. But I'm not going to go. Not going to start saying he's a Ballon d'Or nominee just yet.
It's kind of it's strange because it almost seems a little bit arrogant, but you can say that it's kind of a good season to do that, to bed a player in of that caliber. But also you still kind of got to look over your shoulder, because as the Everton fan said from last season, it only takes 3 games to be in a crisis, doesn't it? So I suppose Cooper's got to find that balance. But like Reiss says, 2 games in and he's looked pretty decent. I know he was a bit shaky first couple of minutes in the Brentford game, but other than that, he was pretty good. And those crossfield passes, they're not floaters, are they? Absolute zingers, aren't they? So it's exciting and it's good, and it's good to see that network we've got now with the South American kind of scouting network that we've got there is good, and hopefully that will benefit us even more so down the line. There's a Nathan will probably tell us, I'm sure, that there's a conveyor belt of them all over the shop. It's like playing Football Manager in real life. It's great.
No, it's certainly pretty something at the minute. But I suppose the second half, the good news is we didn't concede in the first 15 minutes, second half, which is nice. That's sort of put a stop to that one for now, at least. But Palace did grow into it a little bit more, Adam. The Mateta chance especially, we probably were quite fortunate not to go behind at that point. Although some of the things I've seen said about Mateta afterwards, I saw someone say it's like when you're playing with someone at school where they don't know how to play football, you just sort of run to the ball. And I wasn't particularly. I've never been particularly impressed with him anyway, but
it come up on Sky, didn't it? I think it come up on Sky pre-game into that. I think he scored 1 in his last 32 in the Prem. And then literally when that chance come to him, you thought, here we go, it's going to be 2 in 33. Because that's how it kind of used to be in the Championship, didn't it, with us? Just players who hadn't scored for ages, getting their 1 solitary goal a season. So,
he's a big bugger as well, Bloody Nora. Seeing him and Edouard were 2 powerhouses really up top for Palace yesterday. And I thought, credit to him, because that injury list, I wrote about it on Twitter before that I'd be really annoyed with the result if we didn't have a go at him, because Noeze, Elise, Decore, trying to think who else was missing from him, but a number
Ward
of
was missing.
Joe Ward, yeah, but
Obviously,
Klein's not bad, right?
obviously
Klein's not bad.
Henderson.
Jefferson,
In
Lerma.
goal.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They've got a number of players out, and I thought actually they played quite well to an extent. I thought Jordan Ayew causes a lot of problems, and I thought Raksaki, when he come on, actually looked quite bright for him. So yeah, it was a bit of a worry because you're kind of thinking all that hard work we've done. We've played some really nice football during the game. I think a lot of Palace fans come away and said actually it was probably a hard fought point one for them. Really, they got away with it a little bit. So it would have been really like gutting if we'd conceded and lost yesterday. So at least like we can take so many positives out of it and then and build on that. I mean, the midfield three were so good, and the ball got moved so much faster than last week. If we'd played like that last week, we would have won. So it just goes to show, like you say, kind of gelling. I mean, it is hindsight from my thing. I've probably got too much of higher standards. So yeah, it would have been. I was definitely very, very, very worried when that got played in, but thankfully Mateta spooned it.
Yeah, definitely. I think if an ounce more composure and probably would have been in a bit more trouble. But going back to the injury point, I mean, I'm not going to dispute that Palace had injuries because didn't have injuries. So it's very evident to see. I mean, the names you've reeled off, they clearly did. But we're still talking about a team that had Ayew, Edwards, Johnson was in goal still. Their first choice was Gurley and Anderson in the midfields, Mitchell's at left back. So, there were 5 first teamers down and look at it from that perspective. Obviously, Henderson was signed for big money as their highest earner, but he's still not first choice. You could easily counter that and say, well, look, Forest didn't have a 1E, didn't have Niakate, didn't have Danilo, lost Aurier at half time. So, every team has injuries. So, Tavares and Felipe both out as well. So, I kind of don't really... this is something I'll ask you again a bit later on about how was it a massive missed opportunity? Because I sort of think they had a few injuries and it's not looking good. But equally, we also had several injuries of players out as well. So it's sort of like almost a balanced sort of playing field, if you like. But Reiss, thankfully, that was realistically the last that Palace really troubled us. I mean, there was one incident where Matt Turner sort of flew out, tried to punch sort of flats it across really, but other than that, there was nothing really Palace offered. But the same couldn't be said the other way around, in which Forest did create some decent chances. I mean, there was the Montiel, the Canio effort, which was sort of blocked for Henderson and just sort of went over. Was that going in? Probably not. I think Johnson would have saved it. Still top marks for trying. But there was 2 of note which I thought were really good chances, or one more so than the other. I absolutely loved the Dominguez and Montiel link up on the right hand side, which obviously led to Dominguez cutting in and sort of trying to curl one past Johnson. But the big one for me came right at the end, like nearly the last kick of the game, and it sort of worked to Elanga, and I don't even know how to describe it. Like his first touch sort of just balloons off him, and then it just goes ahead of Origi. But I thought that was a moment personally. If we're going to get a goal, that was it then, because Elanga getting the ball from Dominguez in that position, for me, has to do a lot better. But what did you think?
I think they started to tire, didn't they? Because, to be fair, their first 11, you said we're going to talk about it later, so I won't talk about it too much. Their first 11, I thought, was still pretty decent. But they didn't really have anybody on the bench to come on. They brought Raksaki on, who's really highly rated, but I think he's hardly played at this level. So I did think they started to tire then, and that's when we kind of got more of that foothold in the game. I mean, the Montiel effort was some effort and some technique, but I do think Johnson would have saved that personally. We kind of had as like mini, nearly goal of this month competition, which none of them seemed to happen for us. I think there was probably the Tofolo one, the Gibbs White one, the Murillo one, and the Montiel one. If they'd all gone in, would have got in the goal of the month, but unfortunately none of them did. But what was the other chance, as you said? There was the Elanga one at the end, wasn't there? What was the other one?
At the end of Elanga, yeah.
Yeah, and the one where Dominguez put in. Yeah, I think that was a pretty meeting. That was really good work from Dominguez and Montiel. I mean, Dominguez looks a hell of a player. I mean, he looks to spit at Marco Verratti to me. So if he's half the player he is, we're on to one. So, that was pretty much me to drink, say, for Johnson. That one, he palmed it away. The Elanga one, he just kind of snatches it. He's touched, doesn't he? Which is a shame. But, like we said, he's a young lad and he's Cooper says about these positive mistakes down the road, they've got to be kind of ironed out, and he's got to be taking that chance like he did the one at Chelsea, which was in an incredible finish. And the other one for me, which you didn't mention, was the one where Tofolo got in down the left and he chipped it to the back post. Now, I think, and it wasn't a bad ball, to be fair, I think Montiel came in on it until he got blocked, actually. But I generally think if he'd have gone low with that ball and drilled it across, Chris Wood was in the position at the back post where he's probably most effective, and he might have got a tap in there, similar to how he did against Manchester City last season. So there were so many positives, and some of the build-up play, I mean, was absolutely fantastic. I thought about this earlier, and we go back to last season to see how kind of far we've come up in the build-up play. And when we go back to Fulham away, and we were literally, myself, raving about John Joe Shelby coming on because he could basically pass the ball forwards, and now he's absolutely isolated in Turkey, and we're playing some lovely stuff. So that just shows you how far we kind of have come. But like we keep saying, it's just that final touch into that final product. And you did sense, to be fair, yesterday, that if we would have gone ahead, I think we would have probably scored again. It was just getting that one goal, and unfortunately, it just couldn't quite. It's just not quite happening for us at the minute. But there is a point when I do think it will click, and you look at the next home game. I'm not taking any games lightly in this league because it's a bloody tough league, but that is a game you look at and think, could it all click in that one, and we could win that, not at a canter, but comfortably, you'd say.
You'd hope so. I think you are right. If once it falls into place, then it could be quite scary. But one thing I've noticed, I think, being a Premier League club, is that it seems to happen much faster than it does in the league below. Like, when we talk about how things start to click and gel and sort of things like that, it does seem to generally be a lot quicker. Whether that's down to player quality, I presume it is.
Yeah, it's player quality
and stuff. Yeah, exactly. But it just seems as if ideas are bedding in much faster and, say, onboard information a lot better, which is probably why they are where they are. But hopefully it will be. We can sort of put a team to the sword. I don't think we're far off. I really don't. I think we're just a little bit, tiny bit, sort of like just a bit of tinkering in the final third. I mean, we've got a if you look at like the team as a whole, I think generally speaking, the midfield now looks settled. That was a big sort of block we had to overcome. Now we've done so. Defense is doing all right. No, that's sort of more shop and changey, but now that sort of final third, it's sort of not quite fallen into place for us, but I'm sure it will. I mean, in terms of the game, that was that. I mean, it wasn't anything to really write home about. It wasn't a wonderful match by any means, imagination, although Forest did play well. So I guess we'll move on to Slept on It thoughts.
Red side of the Trent. Slept on It thoughts.
And you did call it, Christian,
right,
to be fair.
So I did call it.
Yeah, I thought you'd have took some credit for that.
No. I'll first perfect result of the season. Don't want to get too carried away. It might not happen again. So we'll see. But anyway, so Slept on It thoughts. We'll go with Nigel Clough, Son of God, said, best week played without winning all 3 points. Can I please publicly declare my love for Murillo? Osh Jones says, it is what it is. Another catchphrase for a former manager. In fact, the same one. 2 mid-table sides happy to take a point before the international break. Yes, they were weakened, but it was Forest away. Both teams happy with the point, but we are comfortable and slap bang mid-table. It's progress at the end of the day. Onwards to Luton. Premier League Elliot says, that's Premier Elliot now, says Tofolo proving next man up works. I'm proud of his performance. New Sky Sports were getting Amarillo joking. Lineker did as well, match of the day for what it's worth. Spent the first part of the second half wondering who the captain was. I'm beaten all month, I'll take that. I didn't even realise that. I'm beaten all month. Hey, just started, that's why. Anyway, Will Scarlett said, a good away point, a bit of a missed opportunity. It's a far cry from theory drubbing every away match like last season. Only 3 goals scored in the last 6 matches, points clearly towards the area of improvement. Psycho was back, so another very good performance on the road. Gibbs White, Murillo, and Montiel all desperately unlucky not to score. Tyler was a big miss, but the progress we are making is extremely encouraging. James says you can never knock a point on the road in the Premier League, but today felt like a missed opportunity. We're lacking that killer instinct to win a game like that. We looked very strong. You can see partnerships starting to form. On to Luton. Andrew Newt says, slept on it, thought it was a disappointing result. An injury-ravaged Palace were there for the taking, and we never really laid a glove on them. Kyle sort of follows that along and says, slept on it, feels like a disappointment given the Palace injuries, but a point away in the Premier League is always a good one. Murillo's mustard, Gibbs White needs more end products go, his unbelievable ability. The next game is massive. And Chris Streamer says, I guess it's a sign of how far we come. I was gutted for a point at full time. Thought it was a missed opportunity with their injuries. That's a very recurring theme here. But a point at Palace, established Premier League side, isn't to be sniffed at. 8 games in, 3 away defeats. The last season's top 3 is massive progress. And last but not least, we've got Phil, who says, I hope Christian put a bet on that and he would have got it spot on. Sadly, I did not. But that's the best midfield we have. Body was good again. Murillo, wow, 2 games to the best player on the pitch. Can never scoff another point away, but overall, probably 2 dropped. It will click, hopefully, for Luton. Thank you all for getting your set on it thoughts in. Again, it's great not to be able to read out all of them because we've got so many. So massive thank you for those. I think we will go on that sort of theme because it is sort of the most topical sort of thing. Like, there's a lot of people saying it was a missed opportunity. And on the one hand, I kind of get that, Adam. But on the other, I'm just looking at their team now. So it was Johnson in goal, Nathaniel Klein, Anderson, Gurhey, Mitchell, Jeffrey Schlupp, Hughes, Riderwald, and Ayew, Mateta, and Edouard up front. I mean, yeah, Kato had a few injuries, but that's by no means a bad 11. Like, we've played much worse than that already this season, I'd say.
I think Reiss summed it up quite well in our group chat. It's like a glass half full kind of feeling where missed opportunity, but you're away from home at a team where they don't lose very often against sides from outside the big 6 at Selhurst. I think Callum Castell put an interesting stat about that. They're not lost there since like January or something, or even earlier.
December. So the last time they lost a team outside the big 6 was December. They had 9 men for that. And the time before that was in January 2022. So
yeah.
I
think it's just the matter of it's the fashion of chances that we had, wasn't it? They're all so like ifs and maybes. Like Reiss says, I think if that Gibbs White one drops in, I think I wouldn't say the heavens open, but you get a more open Palace and you get more holes to exploit there. So yeah, it's one of them where literally an inch or two either side of a post kind of thing, and it swings in your favour, because I do think we were getting on top. It's the best we've played, I think, since we've been promoted. I thought we just looked so slick at times. I mean, we've not mentioned Harry Tofolo actually coming in at left back, and I thought he offered so much balance down the left-hand side. He got forward so well, supporting Hudson-Odoi, and it gave Hudson-Odoi so much more space to then run inside when he could. And I mean, he was a bit unlucky. He got shut out quite a fair few times, and I think that will come with more games and confidence for Hudson-Odoi. So, and then obviously it's like we say, it's about shoehorning, and if he gets Gibbs White in the middle there, it's a good link up because they already played together so much before. So it's nice teething problems, like I said before. So yeah, I think I'm a glass half full kind of guy with that performance, but I'm more happy than last week because we actually peppered the goal. I think we nearly had 20 shots on goal, so you can't really grumble at that in a sense.
Yeah, Thomas Frank was very happy because we won on XG. So it'd be the light of that one. Going, obviously, Reiss going on the Palace sort of defence as well. I mean, I think Johnson's now got the league most clean sheets in a row. League most clean sheets. They've got 3 in a row, I think, at the minute. And the only teams who have conceded, I think, less than Palace is City and Arsenal. So I think this sort of preconception that it was maybe a bit of a walkover given who they had out is maybe a bit underestimating Palace. That makes sense. What would you say?
Like I said earlier, I didn't go in depth on it. I thought their first 11 was pretty solid. I mean, you only have to look at their back 5. 4 of them are England internationals. I mean, I know Klein was a while ago now, but had played for England. Gurhey's still involved now. So is Johnson, who's the 3rd choice, and Tyreek Mitchell's, I think, had a few call-ups as well. And I'm sure if there is a left-back crisis come the Euros, he might be in the back of Southgate's mind. I'm surprised he actually didn't get in this squad to say we haven't got a left back, but that's another conversation. You only have to look at our home record. So the last time, now I'm going to include Newcastle in this because it's going to become the big 7 and let Newcastle finish in the top 4 last season. The last time we lost without losing to a big 7 team at home was Fulham, and that was back in September. So the only teams we've lost to in that period are Manchester United and Newcastle, and that was a last-minute penalty against Newcastle. So it just shows you how hard it is to go away in the Premier League. It was never going to be a walkover. And I mean, Adam kind of took my thunder with what I said, but I am kind of glass half empty that I do think it was a chance that we could have won the game, especially with how well we played, especially with the positions I say we got into. But it's a bit of a tough one, isn't it? On one hand, with how dreadful we was last season away from home, to go to, like Adam said, an established Premier League side and get a point is a solid result. But you do get greedy and you kind of want more, don't you? So yeah, I'm a bit like mixed emotions, but it's not the end of the world. I think if we'd have lost the game, we'd have all been vastly disappointed, wouldn't we? And so to not lose a game is, I mean, you look at, there was the Ayew chance, wasn't there, as well in the first half, but the Mateta chance really should have buried that, I thought. So yeah, in this league, we take a point on the road and we move on to the next one where, to be fair, the expectation levels will be on winning the next one. You know, there's no easy games in this league, but that is a game where you look at home against Luton with respect to them, we should be winning that game, really.
You'd like to think so, yeah. I mean, I've still covered out the predictions, but I know they sort of improved a little bit recently, but you still like to think we'd be able to get a job done in that one. I thought what was perhaps the biggest indication of how the game went was Hodgson's comments at post-match, actually. He basically is on the lines of, you need to know when in football a point is a good point. And he felt that the one yesterday was a very good point because he said that we very easily could have lost that today. So
I kind of got from his,
I
kind of got from, I haven't seen what he said, but I kind of got from his body language at the end of the game, because I think he was smiling a little bit, and I think he was probably happy that, you know, with them not having much strength and depth to come off the bench, I think he would have probably said, look, Roy, if you can take a point with this one and we move on into the international break, you can get some rest for some and get some injuries back. I think he would have took it, to be honest. He's an experienced manager, isn't he? So he'll know the score. And I think, to be fair, I think even we might have been the same. And, you know, we come back off the international break and we kind of go again for a few weeks and, yeah, get some more. It's a shame we've got so many internationals now, isn't it? But that's the level we're at. But get a bit of rest in the legs and a bit more of this chemistry going. And, yeah, into finally a 3 p.m. kickoff at home.
Yeah, a bit of a rarity, that, isn't it? But before we hop on to Luton, we'll look at some slept on episodes of it. Player performances. So, Adam, we'll start with you and we'll go with, you sort of mentioned him earlier, Harry Tofolo. He obviously came in at left back, came in against the Brentford game, for example, played very well, got assists, was rewarded with that at the start, and looks like he's given Cooper a bit of a headache.
Yeah, I thought, I said this last week, I wasn't sure that we'd actually see him again this season, especially with the allegations or the betting. It wasn't allegations; it was all truth on it or whatever. But anyway, that kind of off the field and stuff that was hovering over his head. I wasn't sure we'd see him, and then obviously Aina being able to play there, Tavares. But I thought, like I said, he just offered so much more balance. He gave us so much more going forward and was pretty solid at left wing. I thought Raksaki played well against him, to be fair, but he also was quite equal to him at the same time. And I do like Tofolo. I think he's got a level of aggression, which I do quite like from a fullback. Same with Montiel. He gets right in that winger's backs and that. I mean, we saw how good Tofolo was against Jed Spence in the playoff final, to be honest. So, you know, he's got the capabilities of stopping like half decent fast wingers and fast players coming at him. And I mean, the effort he had against Johnston, I mean, if that had bloody flown in, wow. I mean, Joe, when players run onto them, I don't know what you guys think, but you just always imagine them, like, especially from a defender, they're just going to go straight over the bar. And I mean, that must have stung the palms of Johnston. It's just a shame it wasn't quite in the corner to like really trouble him. I think if it was, I think it would have flown in. So yeah, he offered. I think like you say, he offered a few headaches now for Cooper. But again, it's good. It's positive, isn't it? Because you know people are fighting for the shirts, and Tofolo definitely like. I think it means quite a lot to him. Joe, when you like look at his posts on Twitter and stuff, he clearly quite liking his time here, doesn't he?
I think it's because he's come through the EFL system and he's kind of started at the bottom and he's got to where he has because of really hard work. And
I think did he have Did he have an opportunity at Norwich, didn't he, when he was a bit younger,
Yeah,
and then ended up
I think
dropping
he
down
went.
to
I
Lincoln?
think he went to
didn't he?
Lincoln. Yeah,
Yeah.
His pod with the official Forest pod, giving him a plug there. It was actually quite good. Yeah, he was really down to earth guy. You can see, why he's got to the level he has, and he's took advantage of the injuries. Hasn't he? Let's be honest, he's probably third choice left back, and Aina and Tavares are injured. He's come in and he's done a good job.
That's happened a lot over the time since Cooper's come in it. When players injured, suspended, someone seems to take the opportunity, which is a good thing at the end of the day.
The only slight little
Yeah.
criticism I could have given him was the one where I think it was in the first half when Raksaki had just come on. He went to ground, didn't he, in the box, and then Raksaki took it the other way, but thankfully that come to nothing. But after that, I thought he did pretty well for someone who's a young, nippy, quick winger. To be fair,
yeah.
But definitely, yeah, it's like you say, it's very interesting to sort of see how these players react. I mean, I know one of the big things I've always emphasised on as a club, it seems, sign players with good personalities, players with good attitudes, and I think Tofolo really has epitomised that. Like I agree with what you said, Reiss. I think there's a big part of that in that he's sort of like he's done the hard yards, he's been at like run down stadiums in front of like 5 people essentially, and worked his way up into a Premier League footballer. It's an incredible arc, really. So obviously, I think he's just very more appreciative, perhaps, than anything else. But yeah, I thought again, very steady, very solid, and obviously Williams was back on the bench, so probably because Aina and Tavares are both injured. But again, he's not getting a look in, and really, I don't see where he's going to, because Reiss from one fullback to another. Montiel, I'll give you Montiel. So I know obviously Aurier went off injured at half time, not what we wanted. But Montiel seems to very much shaken off that dodgy start at Burnley, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's just one game, wasn't it? Some players can start off incredibly well. The one example I always use was Chris O'Grady, where he played like prime Ronaldo at QPR, and then he was pretty average after that. But yeah, I thought Montiel come on and did quite well. I mean, the Canio scissor effort was brilliant technique, as we discussed earlier. But he is someone who is we've spoken about this before, he is more of a wing back. He is somebody who is going to get forward more than Aurier and offer an attacking threat more than Aurier. But Aurier is probably going to defend better and not get as caught out as much. Going back to that first game, Montiel did dive in a lot, but the last 2 times I've seen he's kind of got that out of his system a little bit. So it gives us different options, doesn't it? And we've said this: the squad depth is so much better now, and it gives Cooper such a headache at times that he can play certain formations, he can play certain styles. So that should be good, really. But I think we've got a World Cup winning right back and someone who was in my top 3 for player of the season last season. So yeah, fingers crossed, it can carry on, become a good player for us.
Definitely. I think, like Adam said, I think I do admire his willingness to run forward, even if it maybe does leave you a bit sort of behind almost. But yeah, I do appreciate how much he wants to put on the front foot. He wants to get his team on the front foot, and he'll willingly move into position to try and help with that, which is probably a good thing. Adam, we'll move on to.
I just wanted to say, just with on if you get in fullbacks that are bombing forward, this is where your midfield 3 come into so much fruition, because you've got the likes of Mangala and Sangare who will just cover those hard yards if they get forward, and if suddenly the ball gets turned over. So that's why you've paid the big bucks for that. Well, for Sangare especially, but Mangala, who's just turned. I mean, I don't want to steal any thunder if you're going to give him me, Christian, but he's starting to find some consistency now, isn't he?
To be fair as well, there was times when Gibbs White got back on that side yesterday. Yeah, that's something. To be fair, we don't know. Cooper might have told him not to do it at all, but that's something that Brennan Johnson didn't really give when we had him on the right wing, did we? We didn't get much defensive support out of him. Now that might be Cooper told him to do that, which is fair enough. But if we want to have fullbacks who can bomb on, you do at times need, like you said, Adam, that cover, so you don't get a counter attack all of a sudden on you.
Sorry, Christian.
Yeah, I was going to give you sort of the double whammy, if you like, of 2. I think we're going to cover all 3 midfielders next, but I was going to give you 2 of them in Sangare and Mangala. Again, it's quite nice to see the dissenting voices around Sangare sort of go down significantly. And I thought, again, another steady game. It just seems very difficult to get the ball off him, doesn't it, really? But Mangala's the one that's really sort of thriving. I mean, we said this before. I think he's always looked better in a free, Mangala. But that being said, and as good as he's been, if / when Danilo comes back, obviously with the final third still not quite playing the final third still not falling into place, do you think that maybe Mangala's the one that would come out for Danilo if everyone was fit?
That's so difficult to really answer, isn't it? Mangality, he's got it, hasn't he? So I don't think so. I think I can see Danilo kind of being used as maybe as a bit of an orthodox kind of wide man, like he was last season, in a bit of like a kind of a narrow side of front three as such. But he can also do that role and bomb forward. I think Mangala just he sits at the base of that midfield and drops between the two centre halves really nicely. I know Sangare can probably do it as well. So it'll be interesting to see when Cooper does have that availability to him, because I like Danilo's athleticism to get forward and be that on that Russian midfielder, a bit similar to like a Lampard, obviously not in that kind of ilk or anything. But you know what I mean, like arriving late into the box, similar to the goal he scored against Southampton. So yeah, that's going to be a real interesting one to see how that kind of pans out and how Cooper approaches it. That might be a game-to-game basis, and depending on our opposition and what he can exploit almost. But Sangare yesterday was like, I'm going to go back to a Crystal Palace reference we made last season, Reiss, and he's a bit like Lelong, isn't he? He's just got such long legs. He just like wraps them around people and just steals the ball. It's great.
He was half as good as a player as Patrick Vieira was then. Yeah, 30 million to snip.
It's kind of similar build. Like I mean, we mentioned Pogba, but
yeah,
like Vieira,
very gangly type of player, aren't they? But they can, like we said this last week, we wormed in the middle of the Burnley, was not the Burnley place, like the Brentford. Yeah, and you really like, because they're so gangly, they're hard to kind of shrug off the ball and they move quite quickly at times. Like, yeah.
I think and then obviously if you want to put Dominguez in this mix, I just think they all, like you said at the top of the show, Christian, they kind of all complement each other quite nicely, and I think they all can do the same role. I kind of criticise them for being too similar, but I thought Dominguez actually got forward quite nicely. I mean, the effort he had at the end was unfortunate. I think Johnston had a really good game for Palace, and that was just one of those things where you come up against a goalkeeper who's having a good day at the end. And I didn't know about the stat about them keeping clean sheets as well as they have done. So yeah, it's a nice blend in there in that midfield of tenacity and actual guile, as you want to call it. Maybe they're all quite smooth players as well.
Just to quickly add on that as well, with Danilo, we could end up playing like the Christmas tree formation where you've still got your three, and then you've kind of got where Danilo was like on the left kind of attacking mid one to last season. And
that's what I was getting at earlier.
Yeah, with Gibbs White as well, and then obviously you've got your focal point with Tyler when he's fit. So like we said, that's another option for Cooper. He's got plenty of them, I know that.
Definitely, it's a very good position to be in. It's nice. Last player I'm going to give you, Reiss. It's going to be a good one in Dominguez. Probably thinking yay. However, I did see a Twitter comment, which I will levy to you, which sort of makes it a bit of an awkward one for you to handle. Someone said he is Ryan Yates with technical ability. So, how did you think Dominguez played, and what would you say to that comment?
To that comment, well, it depends what you kind of class as technical ability as. Does Ryan Yates' technicalities are, we know his strengths. Ryan Yates uses the best of his strengths with his. I'm getting my words mixed up now. The technicalities Ryan Yates have is different to Dominguez, but I get what he's saying, that because Dominguez can probably pass. Well, he can pass better and get forward a bit better. I'm trying to make this where I'm not slating somebody who doesn't deserve to be slated.
It's a very awkward one, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I still like comment. I was like, hang on, that's a little bit harsh.
I'm not being funny. Look, why does it always have to go back to with respect to Ryan Yates? Yates is part of the squad. There'll be times when he'll be starting, there'll be times when he's on the bench, and there'll be times when he doesn't play as well as he should, and there'll be times when he's really good. That's just how football is. Not everything has to be about one certain player. It's a squad game. We've invested a lot of money in that central midfield area, so there's going to be a lot of competition for places. We've just spoken about how is a player who a lot of people last season said is going to be the next wonder kid getting back in the team. So it's just competition, and I don't get why there has to be comparisons every game, to be honest. But I'm going to move on to Dominguez because he deserves to be spoken about, because he's been excellent ever since he came into the team at Manchester City. It's 3 good games in a row, and I'm really glad that the injury last week obviously meant it wasn't a problem for yesterday. We spoke about the effort earlier, didn't we? That was lovely build-up play and movement from him on that right side. So, I mean, them 3 at the minute, you can't argue against them losing the shirt, can you? I mean, everyone's saying on Twitter how well it's knitting together in the middle of that park. So why, if it ain't broke, why try and fix it? So I expect them 3, bar any injuries, to be starting against Luton, to be honest. But yeah, Dominguez is looking a really good buy. There's a lot of furore about. I don't think it was a straight swap for Freuler, isn't it? I think we paid some money and Freuler on top. There is a bit of like misinformation about that, but
About 8 million.
But whatever it is, it's so far working out, and he looks a really good player. And to be honest, on the form, if he carries on his form, he'll be looking to get back in that Argentina squad.
Nathan said that.
We need some of the listeners to somehow come up with a song for Dominguez, but his name's a bit awkward, isn't it? It's going to be a tricky one to force his name in somewhere, but cracking little player. I love him.
Definitely, yeah, very, very good. Yeah, Nathan was saying that he felt that I think Montiel's gone into the Argentina squad for the next list, but he was saying that the way Dominguez is playing, he won't be the only person from Nottingham getting on a plane to Argentina next time for games, because he's playing brilliantly.
They're not going to put him in after 2 good games, are they? I mean, we're not in talking.
No, but let's say I think the next one's in what, Feb?
Yeah, November. No, I think there's one next month as well, I believe.
Yeah, November. Yeah.
So maybe for them.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Maybe, yeah, definitely. But anyway, we're going to move on to our next game, which, as we mentioned earlier, was a very rare 3:00 fixture on a Saturday at home at City Ground, where we host Luton Town, who show some sort of resilience. I don't know if you saw any of the Spurs game, but how they weren't 3-0 down inside the first 10 minutes, don't really know. But I mean, definitely that's football, isn't it? You don't take your chances, you run the risk of getting hurt. But yeah, it's certainly an interesting one. It's going to be a very different proposition from the last we played Luton. Adman, how do you see the game going?
I mean, it's difficult to say because now we're going to have a break. So it's kind of like, as long as we come back unscathed from international break, then, and if we play like we did yesterday, then I don't want, like Reiss said, that you don't want to like kind of take anything for granted and who's going to be an easy game in this division, because it's not like that. But I'd like to think if we play like we did yesterday and have that bit more of a killer instinct, then we should take them to the cleaners, to be honest. And I mean, I don't mean that in disrespect, but come on, like if anyone's expecting anything less, then I'll be very shocked. But yeah, I'd like to say that we'll win it comfortably. Luton will come and make it very difficult for us. I can imagine sitting in and trying to play on the counter attack and getting it up to Carlton Morris to trying to be an awkward bugger up front for us. But I mean, Murillo kind of manhandled Mateta and Edouard, and even Bolly like a raging bull at some point yesterday. It was brilliant. So yeah, I expect us to go and beat them. I don't want to like kind of predict too much because we don't know what both sides are going to come back like after the international break with us having so many internationals. I don't know what Luton's situation is like. Probably I don't want to assume, but I'm going to that they haven't got as many as we have. So I expect us to beat them. I'm going to say 2-0 to be kind. I do generally think it'll be more, but 2-0 I'll go.
Reiss, what about you?
Yeah, Just someone as well, just to quickly, Adam mentioned there, I totally agree with John Percy's tweet last night about Willy Bolly. I mean, what was it, 2.25 million? I mean, he's been an absolute slip, and I thought he was very good again last night. I just love that. He just got like a massive head, hasn't he? He just absolutely blocks everything. It's absolutely great. I really actually do quite love him, to be fair. But yeah, I mean, it, at this level, like we've said, it's you can't take anything for granted. You really can't, and every game is going to bring its problems. Luton will, at times, I think, cause us problems. That's just how the Premier League is. There will be probably a period of the game where they might have an opportunity, or make it a bit tricky for us. But I'm going to probably say this for probably the first time this season. This is a game I fully expect us to win, to be honest. And I'd be vastly disappointed if it was anything but a win. If that means it's a 1-0 win, I would generally take that. But yeah, it's a game we've got to be looking at winning. And I agree with Adam. I'd be vastly surprised if anybody says any different. And this is no disrespect to Luton. I think every team who plays them at home this season will be saying the exact same with respect to them. So I'm going to agree with Adam. I'm going to go for 2-0. It's just a bit of a shame it is the break now, and again, it kind of things are knitting well, and it's kind of, you want to keep playing club football because, me and we're all England fans, but one of the games is a meaningless friendly against Australia, which I'm not arsed about, and the other, to be fair, is a qualifier against Italy, but that we kind of all know England are going to qualify, and then the players who are going like to Africa and now I've just looked at Ivory Coast as fixtures. They're 2 friendlies, for example, and you think, what a waste of time. You'd rather them be with us training and resting and getting, to know everything better. But it's the way it is. So it's a shame we've got the break, but hopefully when we can come back, we can get back into things quickly and get going how we have been again. But this time with the final product. So I'm going to go 2-0 again.
Yeah, that's fair. We need to get Lee's thing, actually. We haven't got that yet. But we'll add that as when we find out. I get the feeling that, as much as I agree with both of you, it should be a game that we win. It should be a game that we cruise. It's not really the way Forest do things. I reckon we'll be talking next Sunday or Monday, whenever it will be, and we'd have laboured to a 1-0 win. And we'll be saying what went wrong, why aren't we creating anything, how much we missed Taiwo, etc., etc. And I honestly, I think Luton, I mean, they've just, not to big them up, because there's nothing to really big up. I mean, there's a reason why they're in the bottom 3, but they do seem to be adapting a lot quicker than, say, Sheffield United, for example. And the Burnley game, obviously last week, they went well down to very stupid goals before half time. Awful defending. But then they just banged on the door, and then just very naively conceded within 50 seconds to a wonder strike from Larson. But even yesterday, they hung in. Okay, Spurs should have been outside. They weren't. Richarlison should have scored twice in the first 5 minutes. He didn't. And they caused problem. They should have actually gone 1-0 up, really. Adebayo missed an unbelievable chance from about 2 yards out, and someone put it wide. And, had he scored that, who knows? So, because Spurs, a goalkeeper set piece ultimately, all from work from one. So they are adapting a bit better. I think they'll set up to frustrate us. I'm a little bit concerned that we're not creating that much. I mean, obviously, I know we had 20 shots and whatever else, but that's all well and good. But how many of those are actually meaningful? How many of those did Johnson actually really have to do a lot of work for? Maybe the Murillo one. The other ones are all pretty relatively easy height for him to deal with. So we haven't really forced him into much to do. So, yeah, I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. And I hope that, Horvath isn't leaking team information to his old boss or whatever else. But I really...
Data, because he turned him down.
Yeah. Very true. But yeah, I really hope I'm wrong. I hope we're talking to you in a couple of weeks and we've won 5-0, whatever else. Absolutely blitzed the team. It's all clicked and fallen into shape, and we're all up and running. But I've just got a feeling it's going to be very difficult. It seems that whenever we're made favourites for a game, we don't seem to adapt very well. Sheffield United and Burnley are prime examples. Even Brentford before the game. Brentford were in a poor run of form. A lot of people thought we'd win that. We didn't. We're lucky to leave a point in the end. I can kind of see us going the same way. But equally, these are all transitional things we have to deal with as we become a more mid-table Premier League side. I mean, for context, this time last year, our record was played 8, won 1, drawn 1, lost 6, scored 6, conceded 21, which 21 goals in 9 games we can see. That's abysmal. Sorry. This year, it's played 8, won 2, drawn 3, lost 3, 8 goals and 10 goals conceded. But we've played Arsenal, we've played City, we've played United, we've played Chelsea. So all of those away from home as well. So the improvement in that alone is so stark. But I don't know. Something's just niggling at me saying something will be 1-0. But it's still a win. So we'd all take that, wouldn't we? Anyway, until next week, we might have a little surprise for you in the international break. We have to keep your eyes peeled for that one.
Leeds just sent his prediction in, by the way. He's going for 3-1 to Forest.
Good man. Okay, great stuff. But yeah, other than that, so we'll have to round up the scores for that. And yeah, keep your eye out for what we have potentially planned without giving anything away. And yes, we'll see you as and when we see you with Forest safely in mid-table. 5 points for the drop zone. What a nice thing to say. Could be a lot worse. Could be in League One. Anyway, take care, guys. Until next time.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.